Welcome viewers to this series of lectures on ancient Indian history, and we are today talking about the settlement pattern in the Harappan civilization. In the earlier part of this lecture, we have discussed some of the geographical specificities or climatic specificities of Harappa area, the way it existed say around 2500 BC or 3rd millennium BCE, which is the mature phase of Harappan civilization. Now, in the earlier part we had discussed that mainly the Harappan area or Harappan map, if you see on the world map today, it happens to be located in an area which can serve as the ecotone for two contrasting climatic conditions, Mediterranean type of climatic condition to its west and monsoon type of climate to its east. Now, Mediterranean type of climate typically allows you little bit of rainfall during the winter months, and so rabi crops could be sown and grown in Harappa. At the same time, on account of its proximity to monsoon type of climate, there particularly on the western fringe of southwest monsoon. Therefore, there is a fair bit of focus on summer growing sesamum and cotton, beans, millets, and even rice. And when we know that there are Harappan sites like Lothal, Rangpur, where rice has been discovered, so Bear also. So, the point is, as you can see on your slide, that they are leveraging their location for growing not only the rabi crops, that is winter crops, but also summer crops because of their proximity with the monsoon type of climate. So, this brings us to yet another question, which is often debated in the circle of historians, and there is fair degree of polemics around it. So, some set of climatologists or historians believe that the climatic conditions of Harappa might not have been as it is today. So, today if it is a rain deficient area, maybe that during the Harappan times or during say 3rd millennium BCE, it might be receiving more rainfall than what it does today. Well, theoretically one can say, one can presume this, but one has to have evidence and very credible methodology by which such kinds of assertions could be made. For example, palynological studies carried out in the 1970s looked at the lake sediments in Rajasthan and then claimed that more summer and winter rains perhaps occurred in the Harappa area than what it does today. However, the veracity of palynological studies itself is a little doubtful, and therefore, it's not with fair degree of certitude that we can believe this. So, we have counterpoints also. For example, V. N. Mishra's study revealed that increased rainfall perhaps, even if it is true, might not have been a decisive factor in the rise and growth of Harappan culture, and he argues for the climatic conditions of Harappa being almost similar to what it is today. So, the pollen frequencies at Balakot somewhat reinforce the assertion that there is not much of a change in the climatic conditions or rainfall in Harappa area as it existed during its mature phase and as it exists today. So, one has to understand the settlement pattern with the climatic conditions kept constant. As in scientific studies, we do this, that given these variables being constant, this is how it happens. So, climatic conditions cannot be stretched to being more rainfall fed or less rainfall fed kind of an argument, and we have to keep this as constant, whatever is the climatic reality today. By and large, within that set of variables, one has to look at the settlements logic or the ways in which lifestyle or economic sustenance of Harappa had to be transacted. Now, another important aspect that we should study and keep in mind, because we are discussing Harappan settlement pattern, is the kind of contrast that we get to see between the Indus River system and its other Bronze Age civilizational counterparts, say in Egypt or Mesopotamia. So, when we are talking of Egypt, it is the Nile River Valley. When we are talking of Mesopotamia, it is the Tigris Euphrates river valley that we are talking of. And what is the pertinence of this to agricultural production? So, that is something that has to be studied, because after all they are almost contemporary Bronze Age civilizations. So, how they are transacting their life with respect to availability of water and water resources and proximity to perennial rivers, its gradient, its alluvial flow, its total water flow and so forth. So, if we look at Nile and Euphrates, these two rivers are rather predictable and of tamed nature as compared to Indus, around which Harappan civilization grew. So, Nile and Euphrates are not very notorious rivers. They are their flow is predictable. They flood at a particular point of time in a particular season. Their river, their waterways don't change track very often, and therefore they are largely tamed, and it can be presumed that it would remain that way, and settlements can grow or mushroom around a particular river or channel. Also, Nile and Euphrates rivers, flooding is in a very narrow valley. So, it is not a vast stretch of plain which gets flooded by these two rivers, and again that accords fair degree of predictability to the river system. So, when that flooding happens, obviously it fertilizes soil, which is a must for sowing season, and that is how the agricultural cycle goes in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Please remember that Egypt is more arid a region as compared to Harappa. Here it receives on an average 10 centimeter annual rainfall only, which is very scanty, and largely it is wheat and barley kind of agrarian production that we talk of when we talk of these two rivers in Bronze Age context. However, Indus, which is the river under discussion for Harappan civilization, is a river which has enormous catchment area, and the depth of alluvial deposit is also impacted because of the enormous catchment area. Then it is more destructive river as compared to Tigris and Euphrates that we have already discussed, that it is given to change its course, and that is something that you must have studied with respect to the decline of Harappan civilization. One of the explanations offer the changing course of river as one of the factors for decline of Harappan civilization. The flooding rhythm is very irregular, and that accords a lot of unpredictability, and that obviously will impact the settlements around Indus. People will be somewhat wary of settling down as habitation site in close proximity to Indus. So, the river course keeps changing, and the water level in winter months, which facilitate rabi crops, is also quite low in Indus river, and therefore, maybe that canal irrigation becomes a necessity, and that is why we will see that in several areas which is not very well rain fed, or which is not very alluvial kind of an area far away from perennial river like Indus, and yet there are Harappan settlements, because the sheer fact that in winter months the water level was not so high in these rivers, therefore, they had to resort to canal construction to irrigate their rivers, and so that gives us some kind of an indication to study canal building techniques more with respect to Harappa, which perhaps has not been done. Of course, recently now with the study related to Dholavira as a site, quite a few fascinating artificial irrigation systems have come to light, and that is something that needs to be studied more. Now, since we are talking of the Harappan settlement pattern, it's also important that we look at the specificity of each patch of territory where concentration of settlement is high. So, one such area where we have lot of settlements is the Shekhupura area, Shekhupura district in present day Pakistan, right bank of river Ravi. Near present day Lahore. So, that is one patch where you have a cluster of habitation sites. Also, cluster of habitation sites are found at Hakra channel, which has been worked out by Imar Mughal, and the largest of these sites around Hakra channel happens to be Ganveriwala. And Hakra is regarded as the lowest stretch of the ancient Saraswati river, which is spoken of as a lost river, as a dried up river in Vedic literature, with Ghaggar as its tributary. So, there is a possibility of Saraswati river having been live and flowing and not yet dried up, and Ghaggar as one of its tributaries, and quite possible that in these areas there is a concentration of settlement, and that is something which is archaeologically attested. So, this possibility is very much there that if on the presently dried up area of Hakra channel there is a profusion of settlement of Harappan period, then quite possible that at that point of time the river Saraswati was carrying more water, with Ghaggar as one of its tributaries. Saraswati and Drishadvati are purely rain fed rivers today, but it must have received more water earlier. Its streams today feed Satluj and Yamuna, and this river system perhaps was less destructive than Indus, and that is why, that is one of the explanations as to why we have preponderance of so many settlements in the Ghaggar area or lower or the Hakra area. So, that is one thing that we should be mindful of. Now, concentration of sites at the lower Hakra could also be explained vis-a-vis the rich reservoir of subsoil water. So, it is not merely the perennial supply of water by rivers, which is important for existence of these settlements in such a large number over here. But more critical than rivers carrying that water is the availability of underground water, which is used for drinking purpose, and how it is used by digging wells. So, in the archaeological excavations carried out at Mohenjo-daro, Harappa and several other cities of Harappan civilization, we have very many instances of water wells, and every household perhaps had a water well, and water well becomes a viable proposition only when the water table is reasonably high and it is not it is not hidden deep within. So, one has to dig very deep hole to get the underground water. So, availability of underground water, subsoil water becomes a critical factor, and that might account for the concentration of sites in the lower Hakra. Now, if the water table is somewhat high in this area, then this could have compensated for the rainfall deficit in this region, which is suboptimal. So, 12.5 to 20 centimeters of annual rainfall is quite less than what should have been the optimal rainfall. Please remember that in the middle Gangetic plain you have it to the tune of 150 centimeters per annum and so forth. So, that gives you a sense of perspective as to what we are talking about. Now, since Saraswati is a defunct river today, there are chances of more sites having survived archaeologically because of dry conditions and rusting does not happen, or the dry soil obviously will retain, or sandy soil will retain the artifacts for a longer duration of time. And it also indicates that if excavations are carried out in this area, then perhaps we might chance upon more settlements as well. Now, this brings us to another patch of settlement in Harappa, Central Indus Plain. Now, this Central Indus Plain happens to be the northern frontier of the civilization. If you look at the Harappan map, that is where the northern frontier lies. The main settled area in the Central Indus Plain have sites like Miyavali, Harappa, Kalibangan, Banavali and so forth. Winter rainfall in this area is just about adequate, that is 25 centimeter per annum. This is also the area which during the British period got extensive network of artificial canals made, particularly during the period of Curzon. And but we are talking of a timeline which is far before the British period. So, obviously, one would have had to depend on natural rainfall more than the irrigated network of canals, which gives you a very green cover to this area. This is also the area where green revolution happened in independent India to begin with. So, moving away from this Central Indus Plain, we have another patch of settlement in what we know as the Sindh area. Now, if you look at the Sindh area in the present day Pakistan, you will find that if you are visualizing the flow of Indus river from north to south, ending in the Arabian Sea or in the run of Kutch, because there is a fair degree of discharge of Indus water in the run of Kutch as well. If you look at the flow of Indus water, then during the Harappan period, there are more sites to the west of the Indus as compared to its eastern side. So, west of Indus river, there is more concentration of sites, and the eastern side of Indus, there is less number of sites. This perhaps is because there is more flood discharge to the east. The habitation site or concentration of habitation is also impacted because of the alluvial deposit and possibility of agriculture. Mohenjo-daro happens to be in the western part, and it is one of the largest sites that we have for Harappa, 125 to 150 hectare, and since we are talking of settlement pattern, Mohenjo-daro is accounted for, or location of Mohenjo-daro is accounted for not only with respect to the possibility of agriculture due to alluvial deposit and so forth, but also from its accessibility from the Bolan Pass. So, trade activity which was facilitated through Bolan Pass across regions, Mohenjo-daro becomes an important site. So, this again is one of the tangents, as we discussed earlier, that Bronze Age civilizations are trade dependent. So, Mohenjo-daro's location or the suitability of Mohenjo-daro's location is very much in sync with what we are discussing. Then we have Garho, Ghiro and Kot Kori as yet another small Harappan sites in southern Sindh, and this is to the east of Indus, and obviously these sites are few in number and smaller in dimensions as well. However, they do testify to the importance of eastern Nara branch of the Indus and a land route that probably connected Sindh with the northern edge of the run of Kutch. So, as we said that to the east of Indus there is less number of sites as compared to what it has on its western side. Then we also have Kot Diji Mound, Pir Suhayo, Dubi. These are yet another Harappan sites east of the Indus and west of Rohri Hills. This is at a point which is the terminal point of a 40-kilometer limestone ridge, which has fair degree of chert deposit, and remember these stones are used for several implements and also for those seals and ceilings, right. So, stone resources are readily available, and that might account for the appropriateness of these sites in these areas. Now, run of Kutch is yet another patch where there is a natural depression, its muddy condition that prevails over here, and probably during the mature phase Luni river discharged more water and the underground water was somewhat sweeter as compared to what it is today. Today run of Kutch does not have sweet underground water. Perhaps during the Harappan times Luni river discharged more water and therefore the underground water was little more sweet, which could be consumed, and that is why we have some settlements over here. Otherwise, geography, the present geography by itself does not quite account for it. So, we have around 6 Harappan sites, small and fortified stations, of course, with the exception of Dholavira, which is a fairly big site. But why we are calling it fortified stations and not sites is because they are very small, and there are some constructions which some historians presume that it could have been a fort kind of a thing. So, it could have served some strategic purpose or military purpose, although not many ammunitions have been or not many weapons, stone weapons or copper weapons have been discovered, but it might have served that purpose rather than habitation, agricultural or trade purpose. So, that is the point that we need to be aware of. Dholavira, as we said, is a fairly large site, almost a showcase site, because it has been very systematically excavated and it has given us impressive details with relation to water management and so forth. So, Dholavira's estimated population during the Harappan period was more than its present population. It had more sweet water wells as compared to what it has today. 50-hectare site on Khadir Island is where it is located. So, it is a fairly big site that we are talking of, and it is estimated that it must have had around 5,000 to 10,000 as population. Surkotada is a small site on western margin of the run. Again, it appears to be a Harappan fortress rather than a crop raising village. Then we have some sites around Kathiawar region, and here also Harappan sites do not lie in the best agricultural tracts with black soil, but near the eastern margin of the peninsula. and maybe that lift irrigation was possible during winter, and therefore, cultivation of winter wheat and pulse also possible, and this is something that we get to see at Lothal and Rangpur. Then we have sites at Makran coast, which I did allude to in the previous lecture as inhospitable area. So, Sukta Jandor with Sukta Koh and Prahag. So, these are not very hospitable areas. There are hot winds blowing, 95% of the rainwater goes waste into the sea. However, the monsoon doesn't inhibit sailing here, and this is crucial with the possibility of Harappan connection with the Mesopotamian Bronze Age civilization, Gwadar to Muscat nexus of seafare or sea transaction through the Arabian Sea could have been possible with Harappan settlement very much being present in this area also. Then there are sites around upper Satluj like Ropar or Shortugai, almost as a trading outpost near Kokcha and Oxus rivers. So, this is the range of settlement that we get to see in the Harappan period, and when we meet next, we shall blow it up with reference to individual sites as to how they are making use of these resources and what all natural conditions justify the locational existence of these sites wherever they are. So, that will take care of the settlement pattern of Harappan civilization. Thank you.